Hi drummers, hope you're well. Right, just a quick one for you here about how long does it take to study drum grades. I get variations on this question asked me all the time. How long does it take to get to grade 8? What's a fast time to get to grade 8? How long should each grade take? How long should my grade 3 take? How long should my grade 6 take? All that kind of thing. So funnily enough, Trinity published some pretty specific guidance about this, and it's actually more specific than you might think. There's obviously some really big caveats here. They put figures on it, like the amount of time it's expected to take, but that of course massively depends on how engaged you are with the practice that you're doing, the experience that you bring to it, the quality of your practice, you know, loads and loads of factors. But they do allocate a duration of study time for each grade, and that is, well, just reading from the syllabus here, all regulated qualifications are assigned a total qualification time. This should be used as guidance only. Total qualification time is an estimate of the average time a candidate spends with a teacher, and that's what they call guided learning hours, added to the average time spent learning independently, that is doing your practice in between your lessons, in between your sessions, and it goes on to say the caveat, so it's acknowledged that the amount of time needed to commit to a qualification will be dependent on each individual level of experience, etc. But they then go on to give some amounts of time. And I just think this is really worth stating, because my experience of teaching is some people really get this, and also quite a lot of people are wildly confused about how long these things should take. And I think sometimes the expectations that they bring to learning material, learning drum grades and progressing are unhelpful, honestly, like really get in their way and perhaps like limit their enjoyment, limit their progress at times, and just limit the whole experience for them. So I think it's really worth just having this in our heads as just for sheer perspective as we go along. So like I said, there's guided learning hours, independent learning hours, and then total qualification time. For example, at grade 1, guided learning hours 12. So you might expect to have, on average, 12 hours worth of tuition, right? Independent learning hours, 48. So on average there, a student might spend about 48 hours of practice. So obviously at grade 1, well, it could happen, but it's unlikely that you'd spend an hour practicing every time. Maybe you'd do shorter practice sessions. There's actually quite a lot, isn't it? If you practice half an hour, you're talking about the best part of 100 practice sessions to get you to the point where, on average, you'd be playing fluently and sounding great, doing all the things that would get you a great mark at grade 1. That's a total qualification time of 60 hours. So even grade 1 is quite a lot of stuff, isn't it? Those people who say, oh, I'm really struggling with this after they've done a few hours of grade 1, that's not reasonable, is it? It's not reasonable at all. 60 hours is the recommendation there. That's the average, okay? Let's jump forward a bit. Let's go grade 3. Guided learning hours, 18 hours worth of lessons, which don't necessarily mean 18 one-hour lessons. Obviously, they could be shorter. Independent learning hours, 102, right? So if you're doing what I'd recommend, which is my general guide, is 10 minutes multiplied by the grade level that you're doing. So at grade 3, I would recommend practicing for half an hour. That is, well, let's have a little look, man. That's 102 hours. That's 204 practice sessions, isn't it? If you practiced for 5 days a week, which I think is reasonable, you might practice more, but I think that's reasonable. That's very good. If you can practice 5 days a week, that would take you about 40 weeks to complete grade 3 at what is considered the sort of average speed, the average pace. That's the best part of a year, isn't it? Of working hard. We're talking here about focused practice, doing the things. And by the way, with all of this stuff, we're talking about not just hammering away on the pieces, we're talking about following a practice plan. So skill building exercises that are associated with the pieces that you're doing. For example, grade 3, if you're doing rock and pop, don't want to fight. Everyone says, I'm struggling with that bass drum bit in the verse. So it's not just hammering away on that. We're talking about skill building, like your bass drum drills that I could write for you on your practice plan, or your teacher will write for you. So rudiments, skill building drills, all the stuff associated with the grade, not just the material itself. Yeah, we're talking for grade 3 there about 40 weeks. If you have a week off here and there, it's the best part of a year, isn't it? You go on holiday in the summer, you're ill 1 week, you know. We're talking about the best part of a year there for grade 3. Let's jump forward now. Grade 6, guided learning hours, estimated 36. So 36 hours of lessons on average. Independent learning hours, you ready? 184. Grade 6, 184 hours of practice. People are saying, any tips? I'm struggling with playing the bass drum on Smells Like Teen Spirit accurately, or any tips, I'm struggling to play Smooth Criminal and get it accurate on the hi-hat. 184 hours of practice, right? Remember as well, all the grades, the idea is this all assumes you're standing on the shoulders of solid skills from the previous grades, right? So that's that estimate there for grade 6, a total number of hours of 220, your lessons and your practice, a total number of hours of 220. That assumes that you've got solid skills from grades 1 to 5. You're not having to relearn or learn stuff from previous grades, just assuming that you're moving on to grade 6 from grade 5, 220 hours. If you practiced for an hour a day at grade 6, which is probably what I recommend, set at 60 minutes, that would be, so 184 independent hours at grade 6, 60 minutes a day, that comes out to about 37 weeks, so almost the same amount of time as your grade 3 would have taken you at 30 minutes a day. So 37 weeks of pretty solid practice, 1 hour a day for 5 days a week, 37 weeks for grade 6. You got it? That's the average estimate, how long it would take the average candidate to get to the point where they're playing grade 6 really well and fluently and have, you know, assimilated the skills. Okay, let's jump forward to grade 8, because everyone will ask about this. Grade 8, 54 guided hours, 226 independent hours, and that is a total of 320 hours of preparation. On average is what Trinity suggest is a reasonable average for the, you know, the amount of time somebody would take. So at grade 8, well, 10 minutes times by your grade, let's say an hour and a half. I mean, plenty of my students do grade 8 practice more than that, actually. They practice 2 hours or more in some cases. But say that you practiced an hour and a half, right? Say that you practiced an hour and a half for your grade 8. Your 226 independent hours of study there, so putting your lessons to one side, your 226 hours of study, an hour and a half, that is 399 sessions. If you do an hour and a half practice a day for 5 days a week, that would take you 80 weeks to complete your grade 8. Does that make sense? So if you were doing grade 8, 226 independent hours, if you practiced an hour and a half a day, 5 days a week, that is 80 weeks roughly, which is, you know, a good deal more than a year, isn't it? Now, obviously, if you're practicing for less time than the amounts I'm talking about here, if you're doing grade 6 and you're doing 20 minutes a day, it's going to take you a lot longer, isn't it? These are based on my recommendation of, roughly speaking, and everybody's different, but roughly speaking, as a guide only, 10 minutes multiplied by the grade level that you're at. To do all the grades then, which I just think is a fun thing to think about, and this is the question I get asked a lot, how long does it take to go through the grades? So according to Trinity's estimate here, to do all of your grades, it's a total of just the independent practice hours. Oh no, hang on. So the total time, all in, to do all of your grades, 1,450 hours. If you practiced over the course of your grades an average of 1 hour a day for 5 days a week, that would take you 290 weeks to go all the way through all of the grades and do well, which is basically 6 years, okay? So I think we can say that par for the course, assuming that you do the practice that's required, and again, it's not just playing the songs, man, it's not just hammering away on the songs on the books, it's following a practice plan, and you know, as you might well know, my perspective on it is head, heart and hands, right? So hands being physical skills, rudiments and physical drills that allow you to play the music well, put you in a position to play well. Head is learning the stuff and there's theory around it, like everything that involves thinking, right? Music theory, head. And then heart, which is all the stuff to do with musicality, groove, feel, creativity for the improvising parts or the sections of the pieces where you need to do your own thing. That's assuming that you do all that kind of practice, right? I'm going to say it again, to go all the way through the grades, 1,450 hours, 290 weeks at an hour a day for 5 days a week. That's 6 years, basically 6 years par for the course. So I think it just might just give some perspective on that. I think that's really worth saying. I actually think that 6 years at an hour a day is kind of an exciting prospect, isn't it? You can go from nothing to being an expert at the drums in 6 years, right? Go for it. I think one of the things that I've seen over and over again, teaching people over a lot of years, is that two things. People wildly overestimate what's possible in a short amount of time. They think, oh, I'll fly through this piece, and they say immediately, they do something for 1 week, one piece, they say, I'm struggling with this, I can't get it, I don't understand why. People say, it's bizarre, why can't I get this? You've been doing it 1 week, that's why. I think people wildly, across the board, and I definitely do this, by the way, with other things outside of drumming, wildly overestimate what's possible in short time scales. Wildly, horribly overestimate it. It's just part of our human nature, I think. Then again, the really exciting thing is that people, I think, wildly, or in my experience, underestimate what's possible over longer scales. You can do incredible things if you dedicate yourself to something cool, like playing the drums, so I think it's cool anyway, for a handful of years, right? If you do 5 or 6 years, you can emerge the other end, I would say, an expert, man, like really good. Now, obviously, all of this stuff is like, it's theoretical, isn't it? It's ideal world thinking. Of course, you're going to move house, the drum kit's going to be packed away, you're going to get sick one time, your cat's going to die, like stuff's going to happen. Like life will get in the way, and you've got to accept that right at the start. So having a plan is a great idea. Mike Tyson always said, everyone's got a plan till they get punched in the face, right? So, and life will punch you in the face sometimes. That's what life is, how life is, and you'll be thrown off that. But the longer you play, the longer you stay dedicated to something cool, something worthy, in my opinion, like playing the drums, something really valuable, a skill, you know, potentially a trade, potentially a profession for you if you work at it. The longer you stay committed to that, those things kind of even themselves out. Yeah, of course. Have I stuck to a practice plan every week for my entire life? No, man. Obviously, I'm saying 101 crazy things have happened to me, and I've been thrown off here and there. But I have at least, I would say, committed to it in the long term. Something I love, something I feel passionately about, and I feel very grateful and privileged to have something in my life that I can, I feel very grateful to have a life, in fact, where I can go to a musical instrument and spend time playing and developing skill on it, and I'm in a comfortable enough position in life that I mean, we should celebrate that. I think that we can go to our instrument and just play and enjoy it. It's an incredible position to be in, and let's face it, millions of people aren't in that position in their life. Their life is constantly working or struggling, and the fact that we even are able to spend time and have the resources to get a musical instrument and play it is a reason to be very happy, I think. So putting it all together, hopefully that makes a bit of sense. I just sort of wanted to put that out there just to get a bit of perspective on it. I think there's a certain amount of people in my experience teaching that are just really like frustrated when things don't happen in much shorter timescales than that, and that is a really reasonable estimate, I think, of how long these things take. When you look at it like that, it could seem quite daunting, right, that amount of time. But of course, you don't focus on that as you go along. You focus on the next thing that you're working on. If you can get into a rhythm of just practicing regularly, enjoying it, enjoying those little bits of development, not stressing out, not saying I'm struggling, not getting frustrated when things don't happen in 1 week or 2 weeks or a month, realizing that there are long time scales involved here. And personally, I think something that's really helpful is realizing that essentially, as human beings, we're not very good at judging our own rate of progress, right? So that's not necessarily a thing to base your feeling about how you're doing on. Just keep going, man. Keep playing, keep playing. These things will come good. There'll be times when it seems frustrating, it seems like you're hitting a wall. The main ways around that are perseverance, keeping going. Got to say, having a good plan, man, having a good plan, that's absolutely huge. That's a night and day difference. We're talking about the difference between 6 years and 10 years, 20 years, or never. If you've got the 6 years is if you've got a good plan, man. So yeah, I really think that's a really good perspective to have on it. Hopefully that's useful. I'll link in the description below to that duration of study little chart that Trinity have produced. I think that's really useful, and yeah, hope that's useful, man. Thanks as well for watching, obviously, of course. Always appreciate it. I'll go back to whacking some drums tomorrow, but I just wanted to sort of say that today. I hope that's useful. Thanks for watching as always. Please like, share and subscribe. If you do subscribe and you want to get a notification every time I upload a video, which is pretty much every day at the minute, please click the little bell icon. And thanks as ever to all the amazing people who have supported this channel and helped it grow. I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. It's really changed the whole way that I work, and in fact changed my life at this point. Thanks so much to all the people who've done that. That's via my Buy Me a Coffee support page. 2 ways to support this channel if you have enjoyed it, appreciated it, and you're in a position to. Number one is to buy me a coffee, so to speak, so I really appreciate that. That's a single one-off show of support. And then A second way is to become a monthly member. As a monthly member, for £10 a month, you're supporting this channel and helping it grow. And again, I hugely appreciate that. Thanks a million to all the lovely people who are signing up for that, and all the people who have signed up over the last year or so. Can't tell you how much I appreciate it. You get a whole load of things in return. Ongoing drum support. Write to me with your questions, I'll write back. Take a video of your practice, send it to me. I'll send you a video response about with my feedback if you'd find that useful. You get a complimentary Zoom session at first. You get a discount on the Zoom sessions going forward, or face-to-face sessions as and when that's a thing again. And I'll write for you a practice plan, right? I'll write for you a customized head, heart and hands practice plan based on where you're at, where you want to go, and I'll adjust that for you month by month as you go forward, as you progress, plus a whole lot of other features as well, members videos, notation for the YouTube videos that I put up, and yeah, obviously you'll be supporting this channel and helping it grow. So details in the video description below if that would be useful. Thanks a million, thanks for all the questions about how long it takes to study grades. Hopefully that answers everything. That seems to cover everything that I get asked most regularly. Any other questions, let me know, of course. See you soon, cheers.